very good evening, everyone. We are back again with another session for you, which is curated and which is something which we would want to convey to you. Uh, in the last two sessions that we have had Suresh Narayanan sort of address you on what is it that you should look out for when you're choosing the company, knowing a little bit more about Nestle. After that, we've had Rajat talking about one of the most iconic brands that one can think of, Maggie, and how we build campaigns in there. Today, what we have is we thought, what is our expertise? As the biggest food and beverages company in the world, we clearly know a thing or two about building global food brands. And today we have with us Mehernosh Malia. Mehernosh is the business executive officer, the director for the dairy business for Nestlé India. He has had an experience of managing brands like Sprite and Fanta as a part of Coca-Cola. After that, he worked for Airtel. Then he is right now with us at Nestle, being, as I said, the director for the dairy business. He's also done a little bit of an expatriation stint managing the global business and the marketing for one of our global brands, NIDO. And yes, so I'm sure that all of you would be very excited. Please keep the chat going. Ask us all of the questions you have to during the session. We will ensure that we address most of the questions that you have for Meher. And the floor is open to you, Meher.
Thank you so much, Akshita, for your warm words, generous words, I must say, and your introduction. And I must say, it's an opportunity that I will cherish always to interact with students who are ready to get out into the external world. I used to do this physically on campuses. This is a first for me, this platform. So keep your comments going, keep your interactions going, because I would love to hear from you and interact with you more. Then I would just speak and give a speech and get out of here, right? So that will add to this session, add to you, and add to me also in terms of what are the questions, worries, concerns, or opportunities that you're looking at. So with that, a little bit about me. Yes, I've done stints in Coca-Cola, Airtel, and now I'm in Nestle since the last 11 years. It's been a wonderful journey in Nestle and out of it. And my passion is about brand building and building solutions which are consumer-centric to drive business. Having said that, today's theme is about how are brands built in the largest FMCG in the world. Yes, Nestle is the largest FMCG in the world, but that's kind of tooting your own horn, right? More than that, I feel more passionate about us is that we are in the food and beverage category, and we are the largest and the most trusted global company in the food and beverage sector, as Akshita mentioned. And over the years, I've realized that the food and beverage sector is very distinct from general FMCG. Why? Because you eat these products. You trust these products to feed your children with. A mother trusts infant formula from Nestle next after breast milk. And that's the level of trust Nestle needs to continuously earn. I will never be presumptuous and say we have earned, so we are the best. We have earned till now, but we need to continuously earn, continuously improve on to see that this relationship that we have with the consumer, where the consumer eats our product, that trust is maintained, and the brand relationships individually that we have, may it be a Maggie, may it be a KitKat, a Nescafe, a Milkmaid. Globally, we have Nespresso, not just feeding your children, but now even feeding your pets with Purina Pet Care. These brands need to continuously evolve from the status of strength and build new relationships with millennials who are coming in, Gen Z who are coming in. So today's session is about brand building the Nestle way, but it's also about how we are also learning about how to evolve this brand building the Nestle way, right? So some fundamentals and some continuous improvements that we're doing. And you look at the largest brands that we have and you see the equity that you enjoy. One is the measures that you have on brand equity, which are quite high globally. but one is also what you personally feel about them. When you say Maggie, when you say Nescafe, when you say KitKat, or when you say Milkmaid, memories are evoked, experiences are evoked, and each brand talks to you like a person. It's not just about that Milkmaid in a can, right? It's about those memories when you put your finger in, swooped out that little product, cut your hand on the can also, and waited for mom to make something out of it, right? So it's personal. And why is it personal? Because these brands are living and breathing entities. That's how they've been created. Now, I see a lot of conversation around brand purpose, brand belief, right? And a lot of new brand architectures are talking about that. You're not just about category sizing, you're not just about category opportunity, you're not just about the product and the profits you make, but why are you there and what's your belief? Now, this is not new theory for Nestle. If you go back to 1867, when Henri Nestle first founded Nestle, and the DNA of the founder, I believe, always goes through to how you build your brands and how you are as a company. I've been in Coca-Cola, Airtel, and Nestle, and I can tell you the DNA of the founder is still there in all these companies. All in good ways, all different DNAs. Now, if you look at the DNA of Nestle and go back to the founder, how was this company founded? Was it founded on an analysis of saying, well, this is a category, I can take this much share and I can take this much money? No. Henri Nestle was a pharmacist. In 1867, 20%, 20% of children were dying because they couldn't get mother's milk, because whatever is the condition of the mother in those days, or could not feed on it, and they would die. And mothers would be helpless, fathers would be helpless, because at that point, beyond mother's milk, you don't know what to give your just born. So you're trying to give it a little milk, little water, they're not able to digest, and they die in a period of 5 to 10 days. And there was this little baby specifically called Little Warner. Now, Henri Nestle was staying in Vevey, Switzerland. He's a pharmacist. He hears the desperate cries from his mother. They rush, see what happens. He gets motivated. He uses his understanding to give a special formula of wheat and milk and water, a specialized formula with his understanding to feed little Warner. And over the days, the baby starts picking up health and then lives. Imagine a baby of 5 to 7 days starts living. The joy that it would give, not just the family, but everyone around in the town, and to Henri Nestle himself, that probably there is something I've cracked out here which I can give back to these children and they will just live. Just this bare purpose. So he started this, and this is where Farine Lactan, the first product, started. After that, you can check out the history. It's a glorious history over so many years, acquisitions, brands, etc. But the DNA remained. The DNA of starting something with a purpose and a belief remained. So it is not new that a brand needs to have a purpose, a brand needs to have a belief. It's not new to Nestle. This is how the company was founded. This is not new news. Everything that the company has done beyond that is with a brand purpose or a brand belief, maybe not articulated sometimes, maybe articulated completely sometimes. But that's the way the business was started, and that's the DNA that flows through. And now when you look at human roles that we play, even how we build our careers. In days gone by, we used to say engineer ban jao, doctor ban jao. We knew about the what, but we didn't know about the why. Kyun banna hai? Is it my passion? Why should I become an engineer or a doctor? I didn't know. I'm an engineer, then I did my MBA, and then I joined in FMCG because that was the PPO I got on my campus. So the whats were very clear. I found my passion and I was lucky on the way. But many of us, even now at the age of 41 in senior manager roles, have really not clinged on why they're doing what they're doing. That is because the brand purpose, your purpose, is not there. And if your purpose isn't there, how can you breathe that purpose into a brand's life, right? So the first question you need to ask before you talk about building brands and all is, why do you want to choose a career in marketing? Why do you want to be part of Nestle? I'm not talking about be part of FMCG, or I'm not talking about be part of F&B, food and beverage. I'm saying, why do you want to be part of Nestle? Why was Nestle started? Is its purpose resonating with what I want to do? And if that clicks, you are in the right place. Which is where then we come to breathing life into brands, how Nestle builds its brands, right? And let's take an example of how we have evolved as people, right? How my father performed his role as a father, and now how I'm performing my role as a father. Correct? Our values remain constant, but our purposes and beliefs evolve. Correct? And that is how we build brands which are ever evolving. Milkmaid was the first product and brand that was launched in India. Why so? Because milk was short in India. So Milkmaid was a good way to preserve milk in the conditions that India had for a long duration of time and transport it. So that was what Milkmaid did. It went to the corners of the world that didn't have milk. But then it evolved. When milk started being available, consumers' relationship with Milkmaid evolved to start making desserts. Then came in the mother's role, saying, oh, you know what? I want to delight the family by giving desserts. So in the 80s and the 90s, and even for my mother, Milkmaid was a good way to treat her children and also kind of, show off her culinary expertise. Oh, I can make coconut laddu, I can make chocolate barfi. That was her moment. She was a working mom, but she also found a lot of happiness when children and her family said, wow, what an experimental new recipe, and it's so tasty, and Milkmaid allowed her to do that. And this is the journey that Milkmaid has. And with that, I want to talk about give you a live example of the journey brands have in their purpose and how it evolves and how Nestle looks at it. So its brand purpose was to partner the mother in creativity in delighting her family. Correct? But then comes in the millennial mother. And the millennial mother has a very different relationship with her child. What is that relationship? She believes that, yes, I need to be the mother, I need to have rules, etc. But I need to also balance it with sometimes by being my child's friend. There are moments when I want to play with my child as an equal. There are moments when maybe I do a little cheating also in a game and my child catches me and there is a little bit of fun out there. There are moments when I will be the winner and I'll not make him win every time in a game. So I want to be an equal because those are the moments where the child opens up completely. Those are the moments of enjoyment that I'll have with my child, and these are the moments to cherish. So Milkmaid further evolved in its relationship. Remember, 100 years back, a milk substitute. Now, it is a partner to a millennial mother. It's a Lego kit for desserts, which allows and enables co-creation and moments of creation and play with the child. So yes, it is about making those fantastic desserts, Western desserts, delights, recipes, etc. But now we are focusing on those moments of making itself, which was never the focus before, that the mom needs to do with her child to create sweet stories. And that's what our proposition is, create sweet stories. So you see, when you develop a brand purpose, it's not something cast in stone. You have your core values with you. You want to have delightful moments in the family. But what those delightful moments are and how you want to create that keeps evolving as a brand purpose that you have. And therefore, Milkmaid positioned as a Lego kit for desserts. Remember, when I say Lego kit, it's not about the end outcome. Yes, end outcome is important, what you make about the Lego kit. But when you engage with your child to make that Lego kit, those moments are the most cherished time of parents have with children, because that enables play. And that's how we moved ahead in Milkmaid. And then if you look at, say, another brand, and I'm using these live examples so that concepts on insight, concepts on brand purpose, concepts on brand building the Nestle way are more clear, wherein we start with the purpose and belief to who we want to talk to, the consumer TG, look at a sharp insight, and then keep evolving our proposition. And our propositions are 3 to 5 years, and then we keep evolving and checking back. But our brand essence and our brand purpose, we also sometimes evolve. But brand purpose, its DNA with its value, is something which is more long term. Now let's look at KitKat, how it was developed. It's a light snack, right? It's not your regular dairy milk chocolate or a dark chocolate. It's a wafer, it's snacky, it was an innovation in its time, it still stands out a bit differently. And you can indulge in it as a light snack, even as compared to having a mithai or having a full chocolate, yeah, which is a milk chocolate. Now, if you go back to its brand belief, it's such a simple belief, and belief leads to purpose, because if I believe in something, then purpose is what's my role in it, right? And if you believe that brands are breathing entities, like I said earlier, and if you need a purpose in your life from your career choices, not just about what, but also the whys, therefore a brand also needs a belief and a purpose, because you have to answer what do you believe in, and then therefore what are you going to do about it, which is the brand belief, what do you believe in, and purpose, what are you going to do about it, what's your role. So belief always has an action, a verb in it. A brand purpose always has an action, a verb in it, and belief is what I think the world should be like. So KitKat has a beautiful brand belief, and thanks to my chocolate colleagues in the chocolate who shared with me. It's about enjoying a good break helps you regain your perspective. Such a simple one, right? All of us in our rigmarole and to succeed, to move ahead, if we enjoy a good break, it gives you a good perspective. You just step back, you look at it. And that's the brand belief. Now, therefore, if I believe in that, what am I going to do? Purpose. Remember, purpose is action. Sirf baith ke, sitting on your armchair and believing the world should be like that isn't going to help for human beings, and it's not going to help brands also. So therefore, what's your purpose? So the brand purpose is putting a smile in your break. The most powerful brands have the most simple, articulated beliefs. No long English which you need a dictionary to remove and figure out what is it about. It should make sense to you, and you should nod and say, oh yeah, I want that brand. Why? Because in my breaks, I want to put a smile in those breaks. So that's the simple purpose of KitKat, putting a smile in your breaks. Yeah. And who is it for? Well, it's not for everyone. You don't want to, there are some people who don't want breaks, there are some people who don't need breaks, and there are some people who don't believe their breaks need to have a smile in it. So who's your target audience? It is for those who thrive on a full and busy life and who wish to make the most of opportunities. So they thrive, they love on a full life. People who come back home and I said, Aaj kaam bahut tha. I had a lot of work today, hard work, but I loved it. There are some people who say, a lot of hard work, I don't need this life. But then there are some people who are passionate about the work they are doing, 9 to 7, they do that, and they thrive on life and thrive on a full day. And for them, KitKat gives a break, gives a smile to them. Why? Because we believe that a good break gives you a good perspective to go ahead on. Simple articulation, but that simple articulation takes a lot of time. There is a full consumer segmentation work that goes on to come to this level of simplicity and have an insight which is retrospectively obvious. Insights are always simple, yet retrospectively obvious. You wouldn't have got to it, but when you look back and you read it, you're like, yeah, of course. So to come to that, you have your consumer TG, then you have your segmentation. But regular demographic segmentation isn't going to help there, right? You'll have to get to something called psychographic segmentation, and I'm sure you would have learned that. But that's where the gold mine of marketing is. That's where the richness is. Why? Because a person of my demographic who's in marketing, let's say, who's in Nestlé, let's say, a similar caricature, my age, looks like me, gone through the same education, etc., he may not be enjoying where he is. So his full day, his full work life, when he comes back home, he may be telling his wife, Kuch, I'll have to search for some other job. I'm not getting that excitement. I'm not getting that sense of achievement. I'm not loving it. And if you have me, and if I spend 8 to 7 doing marketing work, talking about marketing, working on marketing, making campaigns, I'm back home energized that my wife says, now don't talk about work and what you did and how you loved it. Please keep it to yourself, right? So there are two different people because their psychographic segmentation is different. And when you crack the psychographic segmentation is when you can build a meaningful conversation with the specific people you're talking about. And I hope it's not getting too complicated for you guys. If it is, please in the comment section we'll discuss. But my urge to all of y'all who are students of marketing, who are starting on your career, is look at the psychographics. There, if you segment it well, you will make a sharp brand, right? So with KitKat, therefore, once you create a smile in a break for a person who is passionate about his life and feels his break is giving him perspective, what will the personality be? And therefore, you do personality dimensioning, which is another exercise. There are different types of personality. Personalities with effuse power, personalities which effuse warmth and love, personalities which have a sensual appeal, personalities which will motivate you to work harder. There are different types of personalities, right? And these personalities have to inspire something in you when they are sitting next to you as your colleague or your friend. Because remember, a brand is a living being. If you treat him like that, and if you have this friend in your hand which you want to spend some time with, he needs to inspire something in you. So he inspires warmth, he inspires sensuality, he inspires confidence, he inspires trust, he inspires that, oh, I can go and talk with him about all my troubles. He inspires being a companion of sorrow. There is this whole modeling that you can do on these 7 dimensions of emotion, and you can either deny it or give it to him. So you can either deny happiness or give joy, or there are these heartstrings that you can pull, but a personality is supposed to do that when he's next to you. So if I believe that you need to take a break because it'll give you a perspective, and I want you to add a smile to your break, then what will my personality be? My personality will be of a playful co-pilot. Remember, I'm not your friend because I'm talking about work, a break in your work. But I'm playful, so I'll give you a smile, but I'm your co-pilot, which means I'm going to co-pilot in your day, in your work, in your life, in what you want to achieve in that day. So I'm not a playful friend like Fanta. I'm not going to crack jokes with you because Fanta has a very different role. I'm a playful co-pilot. So when you look at KitKat giving you a break and Fanta giving you a break, you're like, yeah, both give a break. Both are a pause. Coca-Cola is a pause that refreshes. Everything is about a break. But the dimension of the break that you're taking is based on your brand belief, your brand purpose, your psychographic segmentation on who you want to talk to, and therefore your personality. And finally comes all of this. How does it materialize? How does it manifest itself? At the end, a person pulls his finger through the KitKat bar, the silver breaks, this crisp crunch, and he bites it and tastes it. So there are a lot of physical attributes which we used to call reason to believe on campuses, which we in Nestlé's world call attributes. So all these physical attributes need to meet to that promise. Because the conversation I'm having with my friend KitKat out here is the product experience. It's the opening experience. The conversation, let's say a brand outside Nestle, I want to have with my friend Coca-Cola, is the opening of the bottle. It's that pop noise. It's that fizzle. It's that drink. These are conversations I'm having. So these conversations need to match and support my brand belief, purpose, personality. They can't be completely 2 different segments. Otherwise, you will have a schizophrenic brand. And therefore, the attributes which are your reason to believe are, as the word says, reason to believe, are your reason to believe in the proposition. Yeah, so when I say break banta hai, then I need to give a light snack which gives me a smile during the break when I eat it. And maybe I remember some advertisements and I look at the overall brand which is pleasant and I have a smile, right? Which will give me a perspective. But now, in this day and age, and that's why I'm saying brands are also continuously evolving with the conversations, because I as a professional am evolving, I'm evolving in my relationships. What is the evolution that Nestle brands are doing in this reason to believe? Now we've not just limited it to physical product or the traditional way of designing a brand. We have gotten all the sustainability requirements, commitments, and roadmap. that are there, measurable impacts that we will have on individuals and families, one pillar, on communities as one pillar, and finally the planet. When I talk about communities and KitKat, it's just not airy fairy stuff. We have a very clear cocoa plan, and you should really read up upon it. An interesting, in depth work that we are doing with our farmers and sourcing cocoa sustainably. We have on the planet side, I'm just taking the example of KitKat, but every brand has that. Commitments on greenhouse gas emission, immediate future 5 years, middle term 10 years, and finally, when are we going to get net zero on KitKat Buy? And each of these brands that we have, all of them now have a mandated, it's mandated on your attributes, apart from saying wafers, chocolates, etc., you need to very clearly have your commitments, goals, projects, and a full roadmap on sustainability, which is the most interesting part, right? Look how we are progressing. We are saying our brand is not just about how we advertise, not just about the colors and logos. Acker, we had read, right? Brand is all about the physical attributes, color, logo, jingle, etc., etc. But even David Acker never talked about brand is also about the impact you have on individuals, communities, and on planet. And that I feel is the most progressive leap Nestle is now taking in how we build brands. And that to me, in a nutshell, I hope I have been able to tell you basic fundamentals. We have not gone in detail because of the time and the forum. But I hope I have been able to give you a framework, starting from brand belief, starting from how the company was founded, to coming to brand purpose, looking at brand purpose with an example of KitKat to see how a personality needs to be developed, because that's how a brand becomes a human being. And then how attributes have evolved beyond physical to look at sustainability and have a future facing brand in this world today. And finally, if you look at my role, what I'm doing, I'm a business executive officer. Sounds very fancy, right? It's not that fancy. It's the business head in regular terms. I report to the chairman and managing director, that is Suresh Narayan. I am in charge of all the business decisions that are to be taken on the dairy portfolio in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Maldives, which means I'm responsible for the top line, the middle line, that's margins, the bottom line for the entire portfolio. My responsibility and calls lies from factory, manufacturing, supply chain, distribution, selling, branding, communication decisions, recipes, which SKUs I should sell, pricing decisions, all lie with me. And that's the upward movement Nestle facilitates for you, right from a brand manager, because remember, I joined as a senior brand manager, to a category marketing manager of portfolios, and then to the BU. Which means that marketing at all its stages is nurturing you to be a business head of your business. And there is the dairy business, there's chocolates business, there is the Maggie business, and then there is the beverage business and infant formula. So all these are business verticals. I report to Suresh Narayan from a geographic level at the South Asia region level, but I also report to something which is called the strategic business unit head, who sits out of Switzerland. And his role is to look at dairy strategy worldwide. So it's a dual role I have. I have a strategic responsibility to the strategic business unit head, and I have a business unit responsibility to Suresh Narayan for running the P&L, which makes this role one of the most complex business head and one of the most complete business head roles that we would have had, which is the fantastic part about this role, right? And why am I here in Nestle for the last 11 years? I've jumped from Coca-Cola to Airtel to Nestle, all brilliant companies. Loved my experiences with all of them. Just give me a minute. Huh? Sorry for that. There was somebody just knocking in my room door. Why is this role, and why have I stuck with Nestle for the last 11 years, is roles like BO roles. Now, one thing that you have to ask when you make company decisions, which I had not done. So I'm trying to reduce your learning curve. I looked at advertisements of companies, the glamour, and I joined. these are the decisions that we make. Not that I regret any of these decisions. Each company gave me wonderful, rich experiences which I carry today. But if you look at organization structures like that of a Coca-Cola, there is a concentrate unit and there is a bottling unit. So bottling unit has a CEO, concentrate unit has a CEO. Bottling unit takes care of sales, manufacturing, distribution. Concentrate unit takes care of the concentrate which goes to the bottlers. And then you have the in charge of brand building, right? So very strong experience I got as sales manager of Bombay and then in brand development. But going up, I realized that it would be more of the same in the different levels. So if I were to move up in the concentrate from brand manager Fanta and Sprite, I would be doing larger brands. Again, not to deride any of the companies or exposures. If you want that sort of an exposure or a specialist role, these are the sort of companies you should look at. Then when you move to Airtel, I realized that a service company like telecom companies, banks, maybe even your new age digital companies like Amazon, Facebook, there are three pillars, and you would have learned in service marketing, but I never paid attention to that course. I should have, because there the brand vertical is specialized, the customer service vertical is specialized, the product roles are specialized, and therefore usage and retention is specialized. So if you really want to become a specialist usage and retention or an acquisition person or a specialist CRM person, those are the kind of roles, or a specialist brand and comms person saying I want to make brand advertising, then this will give you depth of those specialists. Now what does Nestle have to offer, which is why I finally after 10 years realized where I want to head. I want to head to be a business head, which is the company which will give me business head at the age of 40 or 41 that I am right now today. These are companies which are structured as categories. So you do your sales exposure, sales manager, just like you would have done in Coca-Cola. But when you come into a category, you are a brand manager, marketing manager, and then you become a business head. So even as a marketing manager, quasi business head KPIs start flowing to you. And then a business head is in charge of everything. So at a middle management level, middle of your professional career, you get to be in charge of a P&L of, right now my P&L is about over 2,500 crores. And I have to make decisions which impact those P&Ls and deliveries on that. And why does the brand or the marketing stream is the best way to move up there? Because brands and marketing sit at the center of what Nestle does. It is not product, it is not CRM, it is just the complete brand and marketing that is there. So this is why you should always ask for structures to enable your career choices. And you could have different career choices, as I said, built on your purpose or what you need at that stage. But this is just an additional tip I wanted to give you all to make career choices. Nobody tells you all of this. You just land up in companies and start discovering and then make your moves based on what you want to do in life. And that's why commercial leadership is something that Nestle starts looking at you even from a senior brand manager or marketing manager, because they keep looking at you saying, is this person not just making good ads, not just making good brands, but can this person lead a business? And trust me, as a BO, I can tell you, till now, I did not use all the subjects I learned in MBA, but now I'm using all of them. HR, IR laws, P&Ls, cash flows, project costs, marketing, which I was already doing, brand management. So to me, at least, and this is my individual perspective, everyone has different perspectives. That's why they make the professional choices. To me, this is the most complete business manager role that I wanted to do. And that's where we are. So I think I've covered three important aspects that we had set out to do in this talk. How brands are built in Nestle. I hope I've elucidated that with examples rather than theory. Brand purpose, brand belief, and how we are evolving on that with sustainability and impact on planet. And finally, my decision to be in Nestle, why am I here, and what does commercial leadership all mean, and how is Nestle structured to enable to give you that. With that, over to you all for the questions. There are a lot of comments in this section. I would suggest one of the compares ask me those questions.
Thank you, Meher, for that wonderful debrief that you that you did on the three important pillars that we wanted to talk about today. And as you can see, there are plenty of comments in order to know a little bit more from you. But I would still request everyone to sort of keep going. We'll try and address as many questions as possible. The first question, which is very interesting, which is very future looking as well. So this is a question from Ananya Kundra. She says that we see countries like Switzerland with a wide variety of cheese manufacturing. However, we in India are still dependent on imports. So she is asking whether we plan to foray into expanding into the cheese category, which she feels right now is relatively more untapped.
Sorry, can you repeat the name of the person who asked this question?
Ananya.
Ananya, thank you for this question. It's very interesting. There are some myths that we need to bust. Firstly, about India itself and the milk production. Now, a bit on the dairy category side. Did you know that India is the largest producer of milk globally? Yeah, maybe some have read it, maybe some haven't. But by a scale of how much? So annually we produce 191 billion liters of milk, and the next country, that's USA, produces half. However, we consume all our milk and we don't export it because our demand meets our production. But we are the largest milk producers. So we are one of the most self-sufficient countries in milk amongst all the developing countries. And I have done a global role. I can tell you all the Southeast Asian countries, African, we produce and consume all our milk. There is a little bit of cheese that comes in imported, but that's a very small percentage of that. Almost all the cheese that's made in India, it's self-sufficient. We make it on our own. There could be global brands, but most of it is made on our own. Now, again, one thing that I need to dial back to say, our outlook on entering categories is not about this category or this product is big. Nestle's outlook in entering any category, look at chocolates. We never entered with, like, you have Nestle dairy, Nestle milk chocolate, but the biggest one is a wafer in a chocolate. We wanted to enter food in the 80s and 90s. We entered with instant noodles. We wanted to enter mints. We entered with a mint with a hole, correct? And we wanted to delight people with Milkmaid, so we delight with desserts, and so on, so on, so on. We were the first to enter milk category in 90s. But how did we enter? We did not sell pouch milk. We came up with a new innovation called milk in a Tetra Pak, which can last for 6 months without preservatives. A big deal in those days, correct? So if there is an angle of entering specialized cheese, especially for children nutrition, which we haven't found the use yet amongst consumers, or consumers are not looking at cheese for giving nutrition to their kids. But if there is such angles, then, the belief, the purpose, what you want to do, why are you entering this category, becomes more credible rather than a trader mindset, because there are traders also who see a large category and just want to put a product in the market and make quick bucks. That's not what we want to do. Have I answered your question? I'm hoping I did, because I don't get
Yes.
to see it.
No, I think you did answer the question, Meher. Uh, we've had some fantastic questions on today's session, so let me try and bucket and take a few of those. This is a question from Shreya, who says that how dependent or independent is the brand from the product? So she's possibly asking about the fact that KitKat Have a Break has been relevant for many years. So so she wanted to understand about this, and how is it that through changing times the brand survives.
Very, very interesting question. Sometimes we believe that when we talk about brand, we are not actually talking about product, right? Let me jump out of the Nestle world and look at Just Do It, which Nike does. Sometimes it just has a tick. It doesn't even say Just Do It, doesn't even feature shoes in it. And we all believe, oh, the brand is so disconnected from the product because they are not selling any product, right? But as I said, a brand is a breathing entity, and you have to imbibe life in it as a curator. So if a brand is a breathing entity, what is the experience you have with me? The advertisement, how I look, how my banners are, but most importantly, when I use the product or your service, correct? That's the conversation you are having with me. Now, if you're promising me the world, and we are used to with the political world out here, but if you're promising me the world, but you're not giving me that when I have a conversation or delivering on that promise, if I'm this big gun who talks about nutrition, health, and wellness, but I'm not continuously doing things to reduce sugar, not continuously doing things to reduce portion size, not continuously having projects to reduce my greenhouse gas emission, then consumer will be fooled once but not the second time. So therefore the product is the main conversation, the main delivery of the promise that the brand has made. And as I said, now we are moving ahead from the physical attributes of the product and also talking about our sustainability impacts. Where is the cocoa coming from? Is it sourced responsibly? What is the cocoa plan? What are my cocoa farmers doing? Are they leading a better life, or am I squeezing them, exploiting them? What is the greenhouse gas emission that goes? Are we having projects to reduce it? So product plus sustainability plus service is the evolution of the product, right? On sugar, on responsible nutrition, all of it, taking KitKat's examples, is how we are evolving the product to always stay true to the promise of KitKat Break Banta Hai. And similarly for all the other brands and products.
Thank you, Meher. A question more about
Again,
how is
sorry,
it
it's
that
impossible to know that I have whether the person is satisfied or not. So I will just assume that the person is satisfied.
I will keep a track of the chat, so I'll let you know. I mean, in fact, I think there was a point in time when you were asking if you're going too fast. We've had a lot of comments saying that it was the perfect pace, and we have even had a comment saying they were very surprised to know that there is so much of thought that goes behind one line. So, yeah. Uh, this is a question from Tushar. He says that now that people are opting for e-commerce more and more, and physical interactions, especially owing to COVID, are getting weaker. How is it that consumer interactions and brand building are going to possibly see a shift in landscape?
Tushar, a wonderful question. And I would say not all of us has solved this jigsaw. We are all trying in our own ways, and we are evolving in this. The biggest difference is that when you put your packaging on a shelf, it's physical, it's stacked with other packs. So the usual way of looking at packaging design, the traditional way, was to always put it on a actual physical shelf, do your research, see how the colors are stacking up. And the common sense would tell us that have flat colors, let one brand stand for one color, etc., so that when a person's walking down a crowded aisle, your eyes go there, large logos, etc., and a product appeal. And all you had is a place or the pack to place. So if you have a large pack, large floor space index, small pack, small floor space index, correct? Now the game has changed. All of them are thumbnails. They are not all stacked together. You have only information to give in that little thumbnail size. Is it a thumb stopper? So I'm not talking of disrupting a person physically walking in the corner of the eye. We are now talking of scrolling. Can I stop your thumb? Can I look attractive? Can I give that one message that you're looking for in the aisle? And this is something that we call the key visual identity. So now your packaging matters, of course, because still there is a lot of traditional buying, but your key visual identity of the thumbnail could look different, carrying the same brand identity and properties, but to look and stop your thumb in the e-commerce environment, which is where I feel some brands have mastered it and some evolving it. But the answer is not to replicate the same packaging that you have there and put it in a small thumbnail. Otherwise, the person's never going to find your brand logo or what you're going to talk about. But the point is how you're going to use that thumbnail. And if you use your key visual correctly, it could look different from your packaging, but the consumer should not mistake it for a different brand. That is where your brand identities, your brand properties, your brand colors play such a strong role.
Thank you, Meher. I think we did get a few responses for the earlier questions saying that they're satisfied with the answers. So,
Okay. Thank you.
great. Uh, there's another very interesting question here, and I think it is very personal to you as well. So, this is Deep from XLRI. Asking which product, according to you, is possibly the most underappreciated product in dairy business and maybe has a little bit more potential for consumption.
First of all, Deep, you're from my XLRI. So you'll have to tell me first who's going to win the next Excel IMC.
That's such a
If I do,
controversial question.
if I don't get that answer, and I'm expecting a response from the IMC in the area, by the way. तो ये पहले बताओ एक्सेल आईएमसी जीतोगे कि नहीं, उसके बाद में आंसर करेंगे.
Oh, he has already said Excel.
Good. So I was just waiting for the speed of response. There are no IMCs on this forum, or what?
No, there are comments saying it is I am Calcutta as well. So
Oh, it's coming. Okay, good. Let the war begin. But on a more correct note, what happens sometimes, Deep, is that heritage brands, if you stop evolving them, like the largest brand we have is Everyday, which started as a tea enhancer in the 1980s, very relevant proposition. But now with milk coming in, maybe it's losing its relevance. And the whole work that we are doing, and it's again a continuous process. And when you guys join in, you all will all be a part of all this construction. It's easy to launch a new brand right from scratch today, making complete sense to the millennial and Gen Z. I can do it. But take a milk powder that was launched in the 80s as a coffee and tea creamer for Northeast where milk is not available, which is called a heritage brand, and now try to understand how do you refill the plane in midair, which means how do I make this heritage brand not completely something different which the current shoppers don't buy, but evolve in what it is to start making sense to the millennials and the Gen Zs who are entering. And for everyday in dairy, if it's a specific question, that's the biggest challenge I'm working on today. Very exciting challenge, very different from launching a new brand where you can design almost all its components. There are some very strong constants and givens. Now, how do you work in that framework and how do you evolve?
thank you, Meher. I think you have started a little bit of a debate on the comment section. So, uh, yes.
We are recording your comments, huh?
Yeah, this will be used next year apparently, whenever that happens.
In your CV checks when I come. I'm just joking.
So, an interesting question on sustainability from Himanshu. He is from IIT Bombay. He asked that, is sustainability going to be a bottleneck in terms of the price of it? So, his question is more regarding the kind of regulations that have come up and whether, focusing so much on sustainability is in fact sustainable.
Himanshu, it is, right?
Yes.
Himanshu, I would urge all of us to read a bit more about what this climate disaster is going to be. There is a very interesting book for starters, which is How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. He's simplified. I'm not in line with all his thoughts or I'm not in line with all his proposals, but at least from a fundamental point of what is this climate disaster and why should we urgently look at it, is very neatly written there. And like a proper engineer, he's given data, substantiation, etc. You may believe it or may not believe it, but the important thing for us to understand, if you believe in it, is that the word he's using is a climate disaster, right? which therefore, as individuals, as families, as communities, countries, and as corporates, companies, and brands, because we are breathing life into these brands, we do not have a choice. Now, the question comes, who bears the green premium, right? Because that was really a question. Um, just give me a minute, sorry. I will need to take this out. Sorry for that. That was a call from home. I had to take it. So, as I said, climate disaster cannot avoid. We will all have to do our bit. But what should we be doing? Where is the largest impacts? I think those fundamentals are important for us to understand. And finally, the cost, which is very, and I'm borrowing this term from this book called Green Premium. Who pays the green premium? Is it the company paying, the consumer paying, the government paying? And it's very simply laid out. And this is what we are also following. There are some technologies, due to technology advancements, there are some solutions which have a very low green premium. We should go on it immediately. We moved from plastic straw to paper straw in all our RTD products. I don't want to toot my horn, but X million tons. I'm saying X because you can go find it. Tons of plastic got reduced immediately, one day to the other. The cost was X paise more per pack. It was something that we believed, I want to take that impact on my P&L, but this is something that we can take. The technology exists, transitions, just a bit of food safety checks we had to do, and move immediately. There are others where the technology is not yet coming, everybody is learning. Nobody is clear about the cost, which is the green premium. And right now, when you look at it, it looks very daunting. But I believe we should start on the journey for those technologies, get in that, look at greenhouse gas at farms, look at greenhouse reduction from milk procurement. Those are the things that we're doing at a larger scale. Move in slowly, bite the sandwich as much as we can at the time. Where the consumer is not ready to pay for the green premium, because there are some consumers who will never be aware, and come on, why should the consumer be charged for the green premium? There we must take those green premiums on board. That will have an impact on profitability immediately. But we believe in the long term, this is what a responsible brand, person, community, or country should be doing. There is no choice. These costs will come. We will take it. And we also believe, as good businessmen, that at some age, the consumers are going to value more responsible companies, more responsible brands, and are going to start making choices based on sustainability. But that's not our driver. Whether she makes a decision based on more sustainable, less sustainable, doesn't matter. हमें तो ये करना ही है. It's like littering on the road. Cost of littering, sir, cost of putting dustbins will increase. Doesn't matter. वो तो होना ही है. Correct? Does it answer my question? Your answer. Question.
I'll let you know once it's in the chat, Meher. But we'll possibly take 2 or 3 more questions and then we wrap up. Is that okay
Sure.
with you?
No
Great.
problem. Yeah. We can go 5 minutes over time. I've just asked the person who's come just downstairs waiting for me to wait for 5 minutes.
Sure, sure. Thank you. There's a question saying that this is by Tamil Alagan. He is from Niti, who is asking whether how does Nestle
Sorry,
ensure that.
I missed the first part, Akshata. Your voice
Uh,
broke.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So, this is a question to you to ask you: how is it that we ensure that even tier two and tier three suppliers follow our the internal standards that we have set in terms of environmental guidelines, etc., and make the sourcing process a more responsible one?
So sorry, I didn't catch your name because the voice broke. Who is the person?
Okay. So his name is Tamil Alagan.
Tamil Alagan. So Tamil Alagan, thanks for the question. As I said, when you look at your impact, there are different companies have different ways of looking at impact, right? So either it's an inside out view of what we can do and therefore measure the impact and advertise it. That itne mein sir, इतने पैसे में ये हो जाएगा, इसका अच्छा एडवर्टाइजमेंट बनाओ और कर दो. Or it's an outside in view which Nestle takes. So when you look at outside in, you start looking at your radius of impact. So first you say the individuals and families that I serve, how am I impacting that? Quality nutrition, lower sugar, lower this, continuous evolution in reducing waste in that product, reducing preservatives, reducing that, making our products the best, cutting edge. Taste, experience, brand, quality, traceability. If my consumer wants to know, can he or she scan a QR code and look at directly the milk farmer? So that's individual and family, because it's an external view, remember. Then you come a little outside and you say what? Individuals, families के बाद क्या होता है? Communities. So our farming communities, the society in which we live in, the education of the people who are working for us, our vendors, our suppliers, how are they all behaving? In the community, am I giving back to the community enough? So we have commitments on agripreneurship, which we call motivating farmers to become farming businessmen so that their farming processes, the way they are farming is profitable to them, teaching them the best ways, teaching them Western world ways in which large farmers are profitable through generations, making sustenance farmers only say grow and eat their own product and maybe sell less. How can they be large farmers? Generations of farmers over the last 40 years in Moga have been done dairy farming. Today, they have been able to send their children abroad for studies because they have been our partners for long. So, how do we teach a farmer to be a businessman, which is called agripreneurship? A very interesting concept. How do we encourage women farmers? Because we've realized wherever women participate in farming, agripreneurship, and activity, diversity of thought comes in, productivity increases, and you've got more hands on the farm. And then finally, how do we encourage youth to take up farming? Youth are going away from farmlands to cities, right? They're not interested in doing what Papa does. So how do we get them back to the village? How do we make them see interest and profit more in farming than what they would do in a city, right? Today, even a large farmer's son may be doing some menial job out here in a city just because he wants to be in the city. So how do we get his pride back in being a farmer? So that's the third activity for the communities. And finally, when we look at planet, we have clear commitments. You can go on our website on greenhouse gas emission, 5-year, 10-year, and by 2050, on water, yes, and finally on our packaging, a clear roadmap on making it all our packaging recyclable. So these are the three pillars, but as I said, we come outside in saying impact kaha sabse zyada kam hoga, where will the impact be the least, and we will go for those instead of saying inside out, what can we do and how can we make the best advertisement out of it. Clear?
Thank you, Meher. We end with the last question where Simrat is trying to ask us what is that one trend that Nestle is planning to leverage post the pandemic subsides.
Sorry, what is the one trend?
What is the one trend? Yeah.
Sorry, I heard train. Trying to guess the post-pandemic world is crystal gazing, right? And I would take an example of the last such disaster that happened, which was not a pandemic, but World War II. When World War II started, it started in, I think, I don't know the exact time of the year, but they were sure that by Christmas, all the soldiers are going to return, right? But Germany and France landed up on a frontier singing Christmas carols because it didn't end that Christmas and it took many Christmases. Now, trying to crystal gaze in what's going to happen for beyond the post-pandemic, there are some trends which we are all projecting with some level of common sense, some level of analytics. But the pandemic is such an event that it has no historic data to rely on. So there is, for example, we are hoping, and some of the trends are also based on hope, right? So we are hoping and projecting that there will be a return of travel, that revenge travel, which people call out, right? We are feeling that a lot of celebrations have been stopped or muted, like weddings. Some have been postponed, some have only been in small groups. Now it will be return of larger celebrations because people will want to meet each other. Domestic travel will increase because relatives have been away from each other, so they are going to take opportunities to meet, right? Also, on the health side, a lot of awareness of immunity has already come in, especially in India, ingredient based knowledge, which has been a shift from fortification. First, it used to be fortify with iron, calcium, etc. Now it is all talking about haldi ke gun, honey ke gun. No? So, ingredient based understanding, going back to your roots and looking at foods which have those ingredients rather than external fortification is another trend that we are seeing. So these are the trends that we are seeing, but we are just trying to project and extrapolate which trend would continue that we are seeing today and which trend would return with a revenge because people have been kept away with their families, cloistered, constrained, work from home, etc. And the fourth thing we are expecting is working relationships of people traveling to their office and back may become more mature because work has continued with work from home. You and I are today having a conversation without me visiting any of your campuses. And it's much more efficient because I'm seeing X number of campuses in 2 hours rather than me sitting in planes and traveling all around. So these formats which we are getting used to and the efficiencies that we have discovered on these digital platforms will continue for sure. And that's a work change that I feel. In a nutshell, these four or five are the big ones. But again, as I said, all is almost crystal gazing.
Great. So I think we can draw close to this session. Thanks a lot, Meher, for addressing all of the queries and then taking time out to talk about brand building, about sustainability, about dairy as a business, and finally the career path that you have had. I'm sure that people will now be able to make a clearer decision for their summers, for their careers, and I hope it really gives a lot of perspective into food and beverage, the world of food and beverages.
And Akshata, if there are some unanswered questions, let's find a way in
Yeah,
which we can connect offline and try to answer them because I would like to look at all the queries they have at this stage of the
yeah,
career when they are kind of gazing out in the outside world to say how do we make a life out. If there are any specific questions or buckets that you want us to address, let's find out a way to do that. I would hate to leave any doubt or query unanswered.
sure, sure, Meher. We'll figure out a way how to get back to them, and I think it's going to be a great learning opportunity for these people.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you.
It was a pleasure to interact. I would have loved to do one on ones, but let's say this is the new world. Thank you.
Thank you, Meher. So, thank you everyone for joining in. Stay tuned to Nestle Leaders League. We have many more such interesting conversations lined up for you. And till then, take very, very good care of yourselves and stay at home as much as possible. Bye bye.